Hello, I'm Miss Tell It Like It Is. How's everybody doing out there? I hope y'all are doing wonderful no matter where you're at, no matter what time it is. I say peace, love, and blessings upon all of y'all. Because I'm a multi-topic channel, y'all, I cover multi-topics. And by me being a multi-topic channel, I had to cover Sonya Massey. Okay, I have to cover this because if I didn't cover it, y'all, I wouldn't feel right in my spirit. We all know what happened to Sonya Massey. Okay, it was tragic. Sonya Massey, a black 36-year-old mother of two, was tragically, savagely, unjustly unalived in her kitchen for no reason at all. Now, I wouldn't have cared if Sonya Massey had been a white female, a Chinese female, an Indian female, a Hispanic female, an Asian female, a Puerto Rican female, an Irish female, a German female, etc. How she was murdered or unalive was wrong and unacceptable in every way. And my condolences go out to her family, her children, who are now traumatized by what happened to their mother. And no matter what race you are, if this had happened to your family member, you would have been traumatized. Unfortunately, the unaliving by police in the black community happens very often. Every time I turn on a television or social media, I hear about another black person being unjustly unalived by a police officer. But most of the times, they're just given suspension with pay and further investigation, in which most of the times there's nothing done about it. In this case, yes, this savage of an officer was fired and charged on 3 counts of first-degree murder, which is wonderful. But still more justice must be sought out in this case. Now, I recently Googled up the oath of a police officer, and this is what the oath said. As a law enforcement officer, I do solemnly swear that my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all. Let me read that again. As a law enforcement officer, the oath that they take before they become a law enforcement officer. And this is their oath. As a law enforcement officer, I do solemnly swear that my fundamental duty is to serve the community. To serve the community. Their duty is, they make an oath to serve the community It doesn't say a specific color of community. It says the community, which means a community of whole, no matter what race, religion, ethnicity, culture. They take an oath to serve the community, to protect the innocent against deception. So they take an oath as law enforcement officers to protect the community or the innocent against deception. The weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all. They take this oath, y'all. But do a lot of them follow the oath that they take? No. And a lot of times, we people in the community, and I've seen other communities as well, not just the Black community. A lot of times, when you hear police officer, people kind of like, police officer? Wow. They get nervous. They feel intimidated. And they feel like, I can't trust the law. And that's an issue. That is a big issue. But yes, every time you turn on the TV, what do you see? Some injustice being done to a citizen in a community, and usually to a Black citizen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to other communities, because I'm sure it does, but it happens majority to the Black community. So, let's talk about what happened to Sonya Massey. A beautiful young Black woman, the mother of 2 children. All I've heard is she was a lady who had mental illness. Well, guess what? There's a whole lot of damn people who got mental illness. But she wasn't unalive because she was mental. Because I watched the video on YouTube, the whole video, and I'm sure y'all did too, of what happened to this young lady. This young lady called the police because she was afraid, because she heard noises on the outside of her home. She did what a lot of us would have done. Because why? Most of us know that police officers have taken a sworn oath to protect community. Okay? So she was under the impression, if she felt threatened by noise on the outside of her house and she felt like someone was out there harassing her, she was under the impression that most of us would be, call the police. So Miss Massey, she called the police and they showed up. And that cop, he said to her, he'd already walked the block and there was nothing. And she specified to him that she needed help. And he said, help with what? And she said, well, that's okay. And he acted like he was about to leave. And so he looks back in her driveway and he asks her, who car that is that in her driveway? And she says, well, I don't know. He said, it's not yours? And she said, no. She said, someone just parked it there. So then he asked for her ID. Okay? Knowing that he knew already who she was. Okay? But he asked for it. So she, trusting the police, allowed them to come into her home. And she was looking for the ID. She was in compliant with the officer, which she really shouldn't have even asked for her ID, y'all. She had done nothing wrong. And then she said, well, she couldn't find her ID. She was going to show him some papers. And he shrugged that off. And then she went over to her stove because he was saying something about go check your stove, about some water in the pot on your stove. So she went over there checking it, and he said something about, I'm going to stand back because the boiling water. And then she said, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And she said again, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. And he said, don't do that. I will shoot you in your face. And all of a sudden, she was dropping the water. He said, drop that water. And she was. And she was going down to the floor, and she was apologizing. She was saying, I'm sorry. And he shot her 3 times in the face, pointed down. And then his partner said that he was going to go and get his medical kit to help her. And he said, no need. That was a shot to the head. No need. And then he made a statement that she was still alive. And then he called her a crazy bitch, that she probably set the whole thing up. And he made a statement, she rebuked me in the name of Jesus. Now, this savage of an officer he not only took this woman's life for no reason, because she was no threat to him or anybody. He not only took her life, but in my opinion, he violated her freedom of speech, of religion. He violated her right to voice her religious beliefs. And he shot her because of it. So he not just only unalived her, he violated her religious freedom of speech to express her religious beliefs. And I believe there were many reasons why she was shot. 1, I believe it was premeditated, and I will tell you why. 2, because she was black. And 3, because of her religious preference. Now, I know we don't all have the same religion, and that's okay. I don't care what religion she had been, okay? She could have been a Satanist for all I care. The way she was shot was evil, and it was wrong. It was very evil and wrong. And I'm going to tell you why I believe it was premeditated. Because I was on TikTok. See, I'm on TikTok. And I heard some things, I'm going to say allegedly. But what I heard was Sonya Massey, she did suffer from mental illness, and she was taking medicine for her mental illness. I heard that she got into it, y'all, with either this cop's wife or girlfriend. She got into an argument. Okay. Now, let's go back to why Sonya Massey called the cops in the first place. Because she heard noises around her house. She heard banging. Now, I believe, along with so many others that's on TikTok, that this cop was banging. He was banging on her house, knowing that that would cause her to call the police. And so when she called the police, I believe he had the intentions of showing up because he was already there. And he had the intentions of unaliving her, which that's why I say it's premeditated. And I believe that he had prejudices because of her race. And I believe he had a problem with her religious preference, okay? So I believe that all three of those are the reason why Miss Massey, that beautiful young lady, was unalive for absolutely no reason. She was no threat. She was so cooperative. She was so polite. And she was under the impression she was calling the law enforcement for protection. What they're sworn in to do is to protect the community. And sad to say, that's the deception. Because a lot of them are not going to protect the community. Now, am I saying that all police officers are bad? No. I believe there are a lot of good police officers. But it's because of so many bad police officers that the good police officers that do take their oath seriously, they never get coverage. Because there are so many bad ones out here doing so many criminal acts against the community that they took the oath sworn in to protect. So, in my opinion, when people say, oh, that's a bad officer, that's a bad, corrupted police, in my opinion, they had to be a bad person before they even became a bad police officer. Being a police officer is not what makes a person bad. But being a bad person is what makes a police officer bad. And so I think, in my opinion, there need to be stricter laws to screen the values of those who are applying to be police officers. Their life needs to be looked into. Everything about them. Any incidents. See, because often, just because you don't have a record does not mean that you're not a criminal. It's just people that do criminal things that never been caught. Which I heard that this cop that killed Miss Massey, he had 2 counts of drunk driving. So I don't even know how he was allowed to become police in the first place. But there are a lot of bad officers that were bad people before they became police officers. And there are a lot of good officers that were good people before they became good police officers. So I'm not going to say all police are bad, because I personally have known some good policemen and women in my lifetime that were not bad, that were not corrupt, that were not killing, that was not doing bad things to people. But unfortunately, it's the bad ones that make it bad for everybody. So I think when you have these bad officers that's killing and they're prejudiced, and they should not only be fired, but they should be not able to ever serve in a police precinct again. Their pension should be stripped away. And maybe this could set an example. And I believe that a lot of the good police officers, well, they can't speak out because then they're going against the bad ones. And then they're in danger. So it's very sad, and it really, it saddens me because, when I read this oath of what a law enforcement officer is supposed to be, it's very sad. Because often, when it says, as a law enforcement officer, I do solemnly swear that my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to protect the innocent against deception. Often the bad officers are the deception. The weak against the oppression or intimidation. Often the bad officers are the ones that are oppressing the weak and are the ones that are intimidating. The peaceful against violence. Well, often the bad officers are the ones being violent or disordered. Well, often the bad officers are the ones that are disordered. And to respect the constitutional rights of all, well, often the bad officers are the ones that are violating people's constitutional rights. So with that being said, how are we as people, and I'm talking about people as a whole, not just the Black community, I'm talking about the community as a whole, how are we supposed to have faith in all law enforcement? How are we supposed to do that when you see so much injustice going on that's happening to innocent people? People are being gunned down and they don't have guns. But one thing I do think whoever that law enforcement person that had their camera on, that showed the real truth of what really happened to Miss Sonya Massey. I'm not saying he's a hero, but I'm glad he had it on. Because how many other people has this officer probably gotten away with unalive? But he turned off his body cam and just wasn't caught. How many other people? I'm sure this is probably not the first rodeo, the first victim. I'm sure he probably did that to many other people. He just didn't get caught. But this time he got caught. And may justice reign for Miss Sonya Massey. May she rest in peace. My condolences go out to her family. May they be healed in every way. And may justice be done. And may new laws be set up to protect innocent citizens against unjust criminal acts of police officers that were bad people before they even became police officers. And I'm for the community as a whole, not just for the Black community, for all communities. Okay? May justice be served. May new laws be written and passed. Because America is a melting pot of every ethnicity, race, religious beliefs. America is made of a melting pot. And America was built on the sweat of people that look like me. So I say once again, I pray justice. Even though justice, I believe, will be served for Sonya Massey, it will not bring her back. And that's the saddest thing. It will not bring her back, y'all. But at least some justice will be served. I'm just telling like it is. I told it like it is. Y'all take care. Tulu, I'm out. Peace.